This is People of the State of Michigan versus Brandon Houghton, docket number 20-163FH. This was the time set for a pretrial conference. I'm informed it will be a plea to count 3. Is that correct, Mr. Ladorf?
That is, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Houghton, I have your address currently on Colson Court. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you employed right now?
No, I'm not.
All right. And how far did you go in school?
I graduated and I did 2 years of college.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Houghton, you have the right to an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Ladorf, and Mr. Ladorf, you've already confirmed for me this is a plea to count 3, so will you waive reading of counts 1 and 2?
We do, Your Honor.
Ms. Allen, would you read count 3, please?
In the People of the State of Michigan versus Brandon Houghton, file 20-163-FH, State of Michigan, County of Ingham. In the name of the people of the State of Michigan, the prosecuting attorney for this county appears before the court and informs the court that on or about September 24th, 2019, at 1350 West Lake Lansing, City of East Lansing, Ingham County, the defendant did in count 3 attempt to commit the following listed offense, and in the attempt did act towards the commission of that offense, but failed in the perpetration or was prevented in the execution thereof, contrary to Michigan law, buy, receive, possess, conceal, or aid in the concealment of a moped, a stolen motor vehicle, knowing or having reason to know or reason to believe the motor vehicle was stolen, embezzled, or converted, contrary to Michigan law. This is a felony punishable by up to 2.5 years and or $5,000. The court shall order law enforcement to collect DNA identification profiling samples and was committed against the peace and dignity of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Houghton, you're being charged here with attempted receiving and concealing of a stolen motor vehicle. That is a felony punishable by up to 2.5 years in prison. If you were on parole at the time, it would be a mandatory consecutive sentence. If you were on bond, it would be an optional consecutive sentence. Have you had enough time to talk about this charge with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the charge against you?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
No, I do not.
And how do you want to plead?
Guilty.
If your plea of guilty is accepted by this court, it means you won't have a trial of any kind, and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with a trial. I'm going to go through those. You are giving up the right to a trial by jury. If you didn't want trial by jury, trial by judge. You're giving up the right to be presumed innocent and to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You're giving up the right to have the witnesses against you appear at the trial and to be able to cross-examine them. Also the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the trial. You're giving up your right to remain silent at trial and not to have your silence used against you, or alternatively to testify at trial if you wanted to testify. Also, any appeal after a guilty plea has to be with the higher court's permission. It's not an appeal by right. And also there are many issues that you cannot appeal when you plead guilty that you could appeal if you went to trial and got convicted. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, I do.
And you understand that by pleading guilty you give up those rights?
Yes, I do.
Okay, also I'm advising you that if I accept your plea, you can't come back later on and try to say that the plea was the result of some promise or threat that no one told me about today. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Also, you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Is there a plea agreement, Ms. Allen?
There is, Your Honor. In exchange for the defendant's successful plea and sentence to count 3 on the amended information, the people agree to dismiss count 1 and count 2. The parties also agree pursuant to People v. Killebrew, the defendant's upfront jail will not exceed 6 months, and it will run concurrent with any sentence he receives in Clinton County for his pending case there.
And Mr. Ladorf, is that a full and complete statement?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Houghton, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree with it?
Yes.
Now, there is an agreement about your sentence that it would be, your upfront sentence would be no more than 6 months and it would be concurrent with Clinton County. If for some reason I didn't want to go along with that by the time we got to sentencing, I would tell you before I sentenced you, and I'd give you a chance to take back your plea and start over if you wanted to. You got all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has anyone promised you anything else in order to get you to plead guilty that hasn't been said here right now?
No.
Anyone used any threats?
What was that?
Has anyone used any threats to get you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Is it your own choice to plead
Yes.
guilty?
Yes.
And are you doing it because you believe you are in fact guilty?
Yes.
Okay, then tell me what you did on or about September 24, 2019.
Me and Mr. Wooen pulled up to Myers in East Lansing. We both went into the store. I came out first and noticed that there was a police officer by the stolen mopeds, and I was waiting outside. And the officer approached me, and then ran the VIN number on the moped and realized that it came back stolen. And then
Okay. Let me
and then
just stop you there. Is that a moped that you had arrived at the Myers store on?
yes, ma'am.
So you'd been riding it?
Yes. We rode it from the south side of Lansing to the East Lansing Myers.
And when you were riding it to the Meyer, did you know that it was stolen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that happened at the Westlake Lansing Meyer in East Lansing, Ingham County?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the court complied with MCR 6.302, Ms. Allen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ladorf?
You have, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Ms. Allen?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ladorf?
No, Your Honor.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea. It's supported by the testimony. The plea is accepted, and sentencing date is, hang on while I get it.
Sure.
17 at 3:15.
August 17th at 3:15. Is that okay for you, Mr. Ladorf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have a court date coming up in Clinton County? I guess I'll ask Mr. Ladorf. Does your client have a court date coming up in Clinton County?
We do, Your Honor, next Tuesday, and we have a pre-sentence for sentencing. So we have a pre-sentence report already that's been generated by them.
Okay, so if he ends up in custody in Clinton County, we could potentially then do this sentencing remotely if it's acceptable with your client. So you have time to go through and discuss all that with him, but if that's acceptable to him, then we could do that.
Okay.
So, but in any event, Mr. Houghton, you will be interviewed separately for this offense by the probation department, and they'll be preparing a report for this offense separate from anything in Clinton County. Okay, your bond is continued, and unless you have any questions or anything further, that will conclude this hearing.
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.